Freaking YouTube. All right, you know what? Let's move on, my dudes. What a freaking mood killer that is. I wanted to react to some SCP stuff today. Let me see. Let me check time. Okay, yeah. I wanted to check out. We're gonna check out a video by the Vogan, but I actually really wanted to show you guys this. Like the SCP is like there's so many people that make animations, so many people who make great stories about the SCP Foundation, and I just wanted to introduce everyone to it. I know a lot of the people in my chat, a lot of my audience was saying that they didn't know much about the SCP Foundation, so I really wanted to just share it with y'all. So this is one of those channels that does like a little bit of animation. It's one of those like office-y animations, which I wasn't a big fan of, but honestly, he makes it work. It's pretty cool. And then the Vogan, which is another great YouTuber as well, absolutely like knocks it out of the park. He did a re-upload with like a newer model, so I wanted to check that out for the first time. But just to get a little bit of an idea about like how the SCP is, as the SCP Explained, it does by far one of the best jobs at it. So let's go ahead and like check that out first, and then we'll go on to the super spooky looking stuff.
We were a team, despite our differences, in spite of the terrible things they've done.
So this is, if you guys remember from the last video I put up, I think today? Yesterday? This is the sculpture. This is the sculpture.
No.
SCP-173, the living sculpture.
Pressed shirts. For them, we were judged by our level of expendability, and they knew that our next mission was a death sentence. One by one, that thing took out my team, my friends, snapping their...
So YouTube, you just freaking flagged me. You took down my stream on YouTube for violating spam, deceptive practices, or scams. I freaking watched the trailer, dude. I watched the trailer. So you gave me a warning. I'm glad you gave me a warning, not a strike right off the bat. But this is why you're losing to Twitch, and this is why you're probably pretty soon you're probably gonna get left in the dust by a lot of other freaking streaming services. TikTok is streaming too, dude. I'll start streaming to TikTok instead as well, like, or not instead necessarily, but I'll also add TikTok there just so people can see, because I guess I'm genuinely furious right now at them about that. That is so annoying. I hate censorship like that.
They were dead.
But you know, again, it's on me. I didn't realize that
delivered as prey to the predator.
The music there, of course, was going to be a problem.
Approved with a blood red stamp. Why did they do it? I'm still trying to figure that out. Maybe that's something you can tell me after you hear how these so-called scientific men left us in the cell. And in the hands of SCP-173. For me, it had been the best of times before it became the worst of times. The best, because I'd quickly risen through the ranks of the facility. The worst because, well, I'll get to that. I was never the best student. I finished high school,
like, and admittedly, SCP Explained adds a little bit more story when it comes to like the videos that they're creating.
Or at least I thought so at the time.
Which is kind of cool, because you get to like
some work for the government.
They do a whole lot of like stuff you can really like relate to. So you actually care a little bit more about these little figures, you know? It's kind of cool.
Found out I needed a job and he offered to help me out.
They don't just do like straight copy paste or explaining the actual SCP like database
take me under his wing.
Whatever, the script on the wiki. Yeah, there we go. That's the word I was looking for. The wiki. They don't just like read the script from the wiki. They actually give it a little bit of flavor, you know? Which I really appreciate.
That's how I found myself walking into a sprawling, futuristic-looking facility where they handed me a level 1 security clearance card with big, bold letters that read, janitor. But I was happy. Just the word security clearance made me feel important, and it beat flipping burgers. I pushed mops, turned off lights, fired up generators, clocked in and clocked out. But all that time they must have been watching me, grooming me, waiting for the day.
Dude, being a janitor for the SCP Foundation, I could not imagine it. They have so many anomaly, like, breaches and breakouts and stuff, that it would suck to just be the janitor and get, like, involved or murdered by one of the anomalies, you know?
They could throw me to the wolves. I should have known. I've always been an expendable kind of guy. After a few years, I was called to an office, and there was a man in a plaid shirt and kind of a tweed jacket that professors wear. He asked me, "Do you have any idea about what we actually do here?" be honest, I didn't. I knew that there were many parts of the facility I couldn't enter.
Yeah, everything's on a need-to-know basis. I think the security clearance goes all the way to, what is it, level 5? Which is the O5 Council?
I imagined that down a maze of corridors were weapons being built, or prisoners being interrogated. But I had no idea about the anomalies. How could I? Before I was told anything, I had to sign a bunch of forms. There were so many I thought I'd get to find out who really killed JFK. And while they didn't come out and say it, what I inferred was that if I ever talk about what happens at the facility to someone outside the facility, well, let's just say it's not the kind of thing they'd spell out on a piece of paper, but it involves padded cells and rusty tools.
They're actually not like the cruelest. They're cold. They're very bad people in general, but I'm pretty sure they would just like wipe his memory and like wipe the fact that he exists.
I wasn't.
I don't think they'd like
I was
kill him. I think they would just wipe his memory and anyone involved and just put him back into civilian life.
I signed my life away with no hesitation.
Easier than having to come up with a murder, like, or a
to
reason
my
why
first
he
novel,
disappeared.
The safe class, of course. They took me to an observation room, and from that room I could see into another room with a sign on the wall that read SCP-067. I just stood there, waiting for something to happen, when in walked another guy in a white lab coat. "Welcome to your first anomaly," he said. "Is it okay if I hook you up to this heart monitor? We want to gauge your reaction to what you see." "All I can see," I told him, "is an empty room with a table and what looks like a pen on top of some papers." "Correct," he said, half smiling, as if I was some kind of idiot. "That's SCP-067. I thought about telling him that if I needed years of training before I could see a pen, that I probably should have taken that fast food job. Could have been a shift manager by now. Then they brought a young chimpanzee into the room, small enough to be harmless.
Monkey.
One of the guys forced a pen into the scared
Hey,
chim's
that's my
hand,
cousin
and something
Bob.
strange happened. It started scribbling. Nonsense at first, but suddenly it was sketching and drawing faster and faster. I could catch glimpses of words and images. By the time they dragged it out, it was flailing around like it was possessed. "That pen has power," said the man in the lab coat. "A power whose source or origin we don't fully understand. That's why we're here. That's why you are here." One of the guys in the other room held the chimp's drawing up.
And that's definitely one of the least, like, that is one of the things that I do genuinely enjoy about the SCP like lore, is that like not everything has to be like, you know, it's gonna murder you, it's gonna be terrible, it's gonna be super spooky. Some of it is just super cool, like mind-bending, twisty stuff.
It was a perfect sketch of the Tower of London, intricate and brilliant. Above the sketch was the title Tower of London, Tudor period, circa 1541. The year Margaret Pole, the Countess of Salisbury, lost her head on the chopping block. Underneath that, the chimp had written, "Pity, she was no traitor. Take it from me, I was there." They didn't need to look at the heart rate monitor to see that I was shocked. That was far from the only anomaly I'd come into contact with, and I must have been doing something right, because in time I went from level 1 to 2 to level 3 security clearance, and that's when they made me a containment specialist. I won't bore you with all the details, but as you can guess, I dealt with the containment of anomalies. A lot of my time was spent looking through small windows and cell doors, making sure that whatever was inside was still inside and still in one piece. Other times I worked with field agents when anomalies were brought in, a transition period that the arrested freaks didn't much like. There was one certain anomaly that
Now, the dudes in the orange jumpsuits, the D class, are typically people who are like sent to death row, so like murderers, things of that nature.
I was tasked
Normally
to
really
oversee
bad
on
dudes.
many occasions. I like to think of it as my pet, but in hindsight, I was its pet.
Kinky.
This was SCP-173, something that was in.
There we go.
what we
That's
call
the
mutant class.
statue.
Classification meaning that we don't fully understand it, but know it is very dangerous. We know it's intelligent, we know it's unpredictable, and we know it will kill. And for that reason,
But most importantly, we know it's spooky.
there's people tasked with
Super
containing it and keeping
spooky.
an eye on it at all times. At first glance, you wouldn't guess just how dangerous 173 is. You wouldn't think it's incredibly intelligent. In fact, you'd think the opposite. That's because it's more or less a walking slab of concrete and rebar with stunted limbs and traces of spray paint that give the impression of a dopey face. We have to enter its cell twice a week for cleaning duties. It leaves a disgusting, foul-smelling liquid on the floor, a reddish-brown substance that I can only describe as a mix of blood and waste products.
Poops. I don't know why he didn't want to say it. He said waste products. It's poop. It's poop and blood.
Where Where that stuff comes from has remained a mystery since we first contained it in 1993.
It's feekies.
Going into the cell,
A lot of feekies.
Because, and this is maybe the weirdest part about 173, it can't move if human eyes are watching it. That's why you need at least 2 people watching it at all times.
It's like the
If you were in
weeping
the room
angel
watching
from
173 by yourself
Doctor
and
Who.
blinked, you'd be dead before your eyes open. We don't know how it moves that fast, but in that fraction of a second, your neck is snapped so hard.
No, there is a
it's almost like
game
being
called
decapitated.
SCP
I've seen
Containment
the videos to
Breach,
prove it.
and like one of the main
All it took
villains
was a
that
sneeze.
chases you around the
He
entire
wasn't even
facility
finished
is
getting arrested yet.
SCP-173,
Shoot out,
the
and
living
there was a
statue,
flash.
the
His partner was left lying on the ground.
sculpture. And
His head twisted around the
honestly,
wrong
I
direction.
would be
So,
excited to play
you
it, my
can
dudes, on
understand why we
stream.
now
Y'all let me
require
know.
3 men
I'm
for
willing
any time
to.
you must enter
I'll do it.
173's cell. Then, a few months ago, I was told that a long process would begin to train and re-educate some future Class Ds. Class Ds are mostly prisoners with lifelong sentences, or those we've taken from death row and given a new lease on life. We were apparently understaffed, so why not employ these men whose lives had pretty much ended anyway? That was the rationale, or at least that's what they told me. I was told to train them on their new job.
They're also like, so that is the 2 main ways that they get persons like Class D personnel. But I think one of the anomalies duplicates children, like 1 child in particular, and they do use that child as a Class D as well. So it can be pretty brutal at times.
Mopping up 173's mess, so that me and the rest of the containment specialists could focus on more important tasks. They hadn't been through the training I had, seen what I had seen. But after showing them the video of 173 nearly taking off a man's head, they were more than willing to follow the rules. They understood not to blink, or turn away or sneeze, and that any lapse in focus could lead to a violent death. So I started to show them the ropes, how we move as a team into the cell, and always keep the others informed on what we're doing. 173 was always sitting in the corner of the cell, no expression on that crude face. But when we walked in its cell,
He looks happy. Look how dopey he
I got the
looks.
feeling it knew something had changed. I felt almost as if it was
Look at that.
communicating with me,
He's just excited to see you, my dude.
but I couldn't tell what it was trying
Hey,
to
look
say.
how bouncy the dude is.
Then, it happened. It was a Tuesday afternoon, 3 days from the last time we'd cleaned. As usual, 173 had covered the floor with that horrible liquid.
The
We headed
fakie's
in to
blood.
clean. My new team alert as always, and some of them cleaned while others kept their eyes focused on the thing in the corner. Things were going smoothly when we heard a noise I knew very well. It was the sound of the cell door.
All 3 of them looked away.
Someone must have screwed up.
Don't look
Hey,
away.
guys, we're locked in here. I shouted through the intercom. Nothing. Guys, the damn door is locked. Nothing. I lost it a bit. Open the door, will you? Nothing. My team looked at me. The ones not on eye contact duty, that is. As if I should know what to do. Hoping that this had happened before and that there was some kind of standard plan to deal with it.
The good thing is there's 4 of them there, so it's like that's a good amount of like observation power, my dude. Take a corner.
Wasn't. We were always observed when in the room, and I knew that a technician couldn't accidentally lock the door. It was impossible. There were protocols. Someone had done this on purpose. The 4 of us sat in the corner of the room as
But
far
who?
from 173 as possible. Our eyes
Actually, I genuinely wonder, like, if this is a canon story, they also, some of the sites, or some of the Foundation, like, containment sites, have, like, ghosts that actually, like, mess with containment breaches and stuff. You could even say that maybe even this was caused by one of those freaking anomalies.
locked on it. It didn't move an inch as usual. Just stood, staring at the wall as it always did. We stayed awake through the night, talking a little, holding on to the slim hope that something had gone wrong. But as night turned to day again, we all began to lose hope. We weren't sent here to clean. We were a test. Totally expendable. Lab rats.
I get that for the D class, I just don't understand why they would do that to a scientist.
But I wouldn't go down without a fight. We couldn't just stay up forever. That was a death sentence. I suggested that 2 of us stand, 1 sit and rest, and 1 get some sleep.
That makes sense.
We take shifts. A couple hours on.
1 sleeps, 1 sits and rests, the others stare. The other 2 stare. But it's like, you can just sit down and rest, my dude, I guess. I mean, yeah, standing up would definitely make it a lot more difficult to sleep. But if you're letting them sleep their good 8 hours, you know, I mean, I don't even need 8 hours. Give me a good 4 or 5 hours, and which is not healthy. It's not good for you at all. But you really want to get your 7, 8 hours. But you know, you could go for a while, dude. There's 4 people. That's a decent amount of people to be in there with. 4 people.
They'd have time to realize what they were doing was insane, call off the test, and come free us. We made it through a couple of shifts like this, and it seemed like we'd actually be able to make it another day or two when everything went wrong. It was my turn to sit and rest when I heard the worst possible noise. Snoring. The con next to me was sleeping.
Okay, all I'm saying is, if you hear snoring, don't stop looking at the freaking thing. Start yelling. Wake up, everyone!
Quietly, so it must be one of the standers. I glanced over for just a split second and saw both.
That's your first problem.
Leaning against the cell wall.
If anybody dies right now, it's your fault.
At the same time, I saw the flash.
Yup, that's his fault.
Snap.
It's all on him. The scientists killed them all.
After another, their necks were snapped.
That's on you, bro.
I'm not sure how it happened.
I blame you.
But I was standing again.
What do you mean you're not sure how it happened? I know exactly how it happened. You looked away. It doesn't matter if there was another person in charge. You heard the snoring. You are on watch duty. Or not like watch, but you're like looking duty. You freaking keep looking, dude.
Staring at 173, who was now in the corner. Dead bodies.
You're not gonna tell me you couldn't like back up and kick someone on the floor like, I'm trying to live here.
Around, piled up in front.
I ain't dying today.
I couldn't stare at this thing forever. I felt myself giving up. I lowered my head to the ground and then finally broke my gaze, ready to die.
Nah, son. You're gonna have to. If I was in there, you'd have to work for it, bro. Nah. I'd like. If I did blink at any point, I'd be like on the opposite side of the room. If that's even like depending on how far he could travel, you know. I know he can blink. Like it's an instant. He can travel a long distance in a blink of an eye. But if I can get to one side of the room and like blink and have him like all up on me, I'll freaking maneuver past you and go to the other side of the room and just keep going back and forth, bro. Yeah, I'll go down fighting. I don't care.
Nothing happened.
I don't think I'll survive. I have no illusions of me surviving, but I'm gonna fight.
I slowly raised my head back up and there it was.
Never surrender, bro.
Inches away from mine.
You make him work for it.
That I understood what we'd been containing, what we'd underestimated. I felt it again.
I feel like you're not underestimating it. I feel like you just got trapped in the room with it.
Like it was telling me something. It was telling me to close my eyes, to sleep. So I did. But as my eyes closed, I didn't see darkness. I saw 173, or something like it.
That's a weird dream, bro.
But not in the cell. I saw it outside, in the world, standing over children sleeping in their beds.
It is very freaking like odd looking.
I saw them hiding in the shadows, staring out at passers-by. Then I realized they weren't watching, waiting to pounce. No, they were hiding. My eyes popped open as the door opened and in rushed 6 security personnel. They took me outside, jabbed my leg with a syringe, injecting me with something as the world faded away. Incident report. Time and date redacted.
Ooh.
Following the experimental forced interaction with Euclid class anomaly SCP-173, subject has ceased responding to external stimuli and appears to have taken on the traits and behaviors of the anomaly. Subject now spends entire day sitting in corner of cell staring at the wall. Staff are advised to proceed with caution when dealing with subject, as the only behavior they engage in is an attempt to strangle anyone who enters the cell. No treatments have shown any effectiveness, and subject will unfortunately require incarceration, likely forever. This report has been
So what, did he become a 173 instance?
read and approved by Redacted, and Dr. Siegfried Schwarz.
I don't get that one, the little bit at the end. So does he become one? Like, how does that work?